Chapter 1. The Wasteland Encounter. The twin moons hung low over the barren horizon of planet Viridia. 9. Their cold lights spilling across an expanse of cracked ochre earth that stretched like a fractured mirror beneath the vast, empty sky. The air was thin and dry, almost suffocating in its lack of moisture, and the jagged remains of long-dead mountain ranges loomed like ancient sentinels guarding secrets better left undisturbed. In this desolate wilderness, every step kicked up a swirl of dust motes that glittered faintly as they caught the muted light, drifting away into nothingness. Kalen moved slowly but purposefully, the weight of his pack digging into his shoulders, his senses sharpened by years spent scavenging the wasteland's silent ruins. His breath was steady, his eyes scanning the horizon for even the faintest shimmer of technology or the dull gleam of something forgotten and valuable, relics of a civilization long since devoured by time and neglect. He was alone, but solitude had become a companion as constant as the harsh wind that blew mercilessly across this forsaken landscape. His worn boots crunched against the gravelly soil, sending tiny clouds of dust swirling around him, and the faint metallic scent of burnt circuits lingered faintly in the air, remnants from the scattered wrecks of old war machines and star cruisers that had crashed during some forgotten conflict. Despite the wasteland's hostility, Kalen thrived here, knowing every hidden crevice and ruin like the back of his hand. His tools and scavenged gear hung from his belt and backpack, a patchwork of salvaged tech and jury-rigged devices that spoke of both his resourcefulness and desperation. The scavenger life was one of constant vigilance. Predators, both alien and human, stalked these lands, and every encounter could be a dance with death. Suddenly, a sharp, plaintive cry shattered the oppressive stillness, a high-pitched, quivering sound that tugged at Kalen's gut like a plea from the universe itself. It was faint, almost imperceptible against the howl of the wind, but unmistakably alive and desperate. Instinctively, he halted, ears straining to catch the direction of the sound, his heart pounding with a mix of caution and curiosity. The wasteland rarely offered kindness, and cries in the distance were usually a trap or a warning of danger. Yet something about this small, forlorn noise pierced through his battle-hardened exterior and demanded attention. He moved cautiously toward a cluster of jagged rocks rising from the sands like the spines of some ancient beast, careful not to disturb any potential threat lurking in the shadows. The air grew colder here, the shadows deeper, as if the very stones absorbed the weight of the planet's sorrow. Nestled beneath one such boulder was a small creature no larger than a Terran feline cub, but unlike any animal Kalen had ever encountered. Its fur shimmered with iridescent stripes that seemed to ripple and shift with the light, hues of deep sapphire and molten gold weaving into an ethereal tapestry across its lithe form. Its eyes, wide and luminous, glowed a piercing emerald, reflecting a profound vulnerability and intelligence that caught Kalen off guard. The cub was trembling, ribs visible beneath its thin coat, and it struggled weakly to lift its head, emitting another desperate mewl that echoed faintly against the rocks. The creature's mouth was cracked and dry, its breath shallow and ragged, and Kalen's heart clenched as he knelt beside it. Despite the alien nature of its appearance, the elegant blend of feline grace and something otherworldly in its sinewy limbs and delicate claws, he recognized the unmistakable signs of starvation and neglect. It was a survivor, a fighter caught in a cruel twist of fate. Without hesitation, Kalen reached into his pack and pulled out a small packet of nutrient paste, a standard ration designed for emergency survival. He had no idea what the creature's biology required, but the desperate hunger in its gaze left him no choice. He carefully scooped a small portion of the thick, bland paste onto his fingers and extended his hand toward the cub. At first, it recoiled slightly, unsure and frightened, but hunger won over fear, and the cub cautiously licked at the offering, its tiny tongue trembling as it savored the unfamiliar taste. Gradually, it grew bolder, pressing its fragile body against Kalen's hand as it ate, the faintest purr vibrating through its chest. A sound so alien, yet comfortingly familiar. Kalen's breath hitched at the raw beauty and innocence of this tiny life fighting to endure amid the harshness of the wasteland. His mind raced with questions. Where had it come from? Was it alone? Was there a mother out there somewhere? Or had it been abandoned to perish? The wasteland was no place for the weak, and yet here this fragile creature clung to life with a desperate will that inspired him in ways he hadn't felt in years. As he fed the cub, a sudden movement caught his eye, something larger, more powerful, watching from the shadows beyond the rocks. His muscles tensed, hand instinctively reaching for the multi-tool at his belt, ready for whatever danger lurked nearby. But the figure that emerged was unlike anything Kalen had anticipated. A towering tigress, an alien queen of the wasteland, stepped into the pale moonlight, her every movement fluid and predatory, yet laced with a grace that spoke of raw, primal elegance. Her skin was a tapestry of vibrant orange and black stripes that shimmered in the moonlight like molten lava, and her eyes, sharp and piercing, locked onto Kalen with an intensity that was almost hypnotic. She was a sentinel of the wild, her tall frame sculpted by countless battles and harsh survival, muscles rippling beneath her sleek fur as she approached with silent authority. Yet there was something more, an alluring, seductive confidence in the way she moved, a magnetic presence that both warned and invited. The Tigress Queen's gaze shifted briefly to the cub nestled safely in Kalen's arms, then back to him, assessing, measuring, deciding. Her lips curled into a slight smile, revealing razor-sharp teeth, a silent promise that the desert was hers. But tonight, she was willing to negotiate. Kalen's breath caught in his throat as the tigress closed the distance between them, the electric charge of her presence making his skin tingle. She was a creature of myth come to life, dangerous, beautiful, and utterly untamed. Her eyes held 1,000 stories, whispered secrets of the wasteland, and a hint of gratitude for the stranger who had dared to save her cub. For a moment, the harsh desert seemed to fade away, replaced by the fragile connection between man, cub, and tigress, bound together by survival and an unspoken understanding that transcended words. The night air thrummed with tension and possibility, the twin moons bearing silent witness to the beginning of an alliance that could change everything. In this desolate place where death was constant and mercy rare, Kalen realized he was no longer alone. The wasteland had delivered him a gift, a chance at something greater, wrapped in the wild eyes of a starving cub and the fierce, seductive gaze of its tigress mother. The tigress mother's eyes never left Kalen's face as she stepped closer, each movement a languid blend of predator and seductress. Her presence was overwhelming, a force of nature that stirred something deep within him, both caution and fascination. Her voice, when she finally spoke, was a low, melodic purr that seemed to vibrate through the very air around them. "You have saved my cub," she said, each word deliberate, carrying the weight of an unspoken promise and an ancient honor code etched deep in her people's culture. Few would risk themselves for one so small and fragile on this forsaken rock. Kalen shifted the cub gently, cradling it closer, feeling the creature's rapid heartbeat slow as nourishment worked its magic. Despite the overwhelming aura radiating from the tigress, there was a softness in her gaze when it touched the cub, an unmistakable bond forged through shared pain and fierce protection. He studied her closely. Her skin, patterned like a living flame, shimmered with a subtle bioluminescence that pulsed softly beneath the surface. Her eyes, large and almond-shaped, held ancient wisdom mixed with a primal hunger for survival, for power, for connection. The curve of her lips, the slight tilt of her head, all spoke of a being who had survived unimaginable hardship and emerged not broken, but formidable. "Who are you?" Kalen finally asked, his voice steady despite the pounding of his heart. "What brings a creature like you and your cub to this dead world?" She smiled then, a slow, knowing smile that sent a shiver down his spine. "I am called Shira," she said, voice smooth as velvet. "Guardian of the twilight jungles on Viridia 9. This world is harsh, yes, but it is also my home, and my cub's future depends on it. The wasteland takes much, but it cannot take everything. Not while we still breathe." Kalen nodded slowly, sensing the weight behind her words. The twilight jungles were known in scattered legends, dense forests filled with towering luminescent flora, teeming with life, both beautiful and deadly, hidden deep beyond the desolation. Few dared to venture there, and fewer still returned. That Shira had emerged from those shadows, alone and vulnerable with her cub, spoke volumes of the desperation they faced. The cub, now stronger, nuzzled against Shira's leg as she lowered herself to its level, touching her nose gently to its forehead in a gesture that was both tender and fierce. Kalen watched the exchange, feeling the strange stirrings of awe and respect rise within him. This was no mere beast. This was a mother, a warrior, a queen bound by duty and love. And somehow, despite the distance between their worlds, he felt an inexplicable connection to her, an unspoken recognition that their fates were now intertwined. "Why were you out here alone?" Kalen asked cautiously, eyes flickering between the Tigress and the fading light of the twin moons. "Where is the rest of your clan?" Shira's gaze darkened, shadowed by pain and loss. "We were hunted," she admitted, voice dropping to a whisper. "Raiders from the northern wastes, merciless hunters who sought to claim my cub as a prize, a symbol of conquest. I fought, but they were many, and I was forced to flee. The others, they did not survive." The confession hung heavy in the air, mixing with the night's chill. Kalen's heart clenched at the image of this fierce, majestic warrior driven to the brink, forced to abandon everything she held dear to protect the last flicker of her lineage. The desert had claimed many victims, but the strength to endure, to rise from the ashes, was rarer still. He extended a hand slowly, palm open and free of threat. "You're safe now. As long as I live, I'll protect you and your cub." Shira regarded his hand for a long moment. Then just as slowly she placed her own large, elegant paw into his grasp. The touch was electric, a bridge between two worlds forged not by words, but by shared will. Around them, the wasteland seemed to hold its breath, the twin moons bearing silent witness to an alliance born from desperation, kindness, and something far deeper. The cub let out a soft, contented trill and nestled fully against its mother's side, its hunger quelled, its fate momentarily secure. And for the first time in a long while, Kalen felt hope flicker in his chest, a fragile flame in the endless night, promising that even in the harshest deserts, life could flourish, and unexpected bonds could blossom between stranger and starborn. Chapter 2. The Pact Beneath Twin Moons. The night deepened over the desolate wasteland of Viridia. 9. The twin moons drifting in their slow celestial dance, casting long shadows that crept like silent ghosts across the cracked earth. Kalen stood beside Shira, the Tigress mother, beneath a gnarled tree whose sparse leaves shimmered faintly with bioluminescent veins. The air was cooler here, laced with the scent of damp earth and alien flora, the rare breath of life that clung stubbornly to existence even in this forsaken land. Around them, the stars glimmered like distant promises, cold and indifferent witnesses to the fragile truce forged between man and alien queen just hours before. Yet, beneath the surface of this uneasy alliance stirred currents of fate and danger, old wounds and secrets yet to be revealed. Kalen's mind raced as he gazed upon Shira's magnificent form, the powerful elegance of her lithe body outlined by the silver moonlight. The Tigress was unlike any being he had encountered, her every movement a testament to strength honed by survival and battle, yet tinged with an intoxicating grace and sensuality that defied the harshness of the world around them. Her eyes, pools of emerald fire, met his with a mixture of challenge and invitation, as if silently daring him to step beyond mere survival and into a bond far deeper, fraught with peril and promise. For the first time in years, Kalen felt the stirrings of something unfamiliar, something beyond the relentless grind of scavenging and solitude that had defined his existence. In Shira, he saw not just a warrior or a mother, but a force of nature, raw and untamed, whose fate was now intertwined with his own. The cub, nestled safely at Shira's side, let out a soft purring trill, the rhythmic vibration a soothing balm to both mother and man. Kalen reached out, his hand trembling slightly as it brushed the cub's shimmering fur, softer and warmer than any creature from his world. The touch grounded him, a tether in the swirling chaos of emotions and unspoken questions. How had he come to be the protector of this alien family? What dangers lurked beyond the horizon, threatening not just their survival, but the fragile hope they now shared? Shira's voice broke the silence, low and melodic, carrying the weight of 1,000 battles and the hope of a future yet unwritten. "You saved my cub, and in doing so, you have bound your fate to mine." There is no turning back now, Kaelin of Earth. Her tone was firm, yet beneath it lay a current of vulnerability and echo of the fierce maternal love that drove her onward despite the scars etched upon her soul. The Northern Raiders will not rest until they have claimed what they believe is theirs. We must prepare. Kaelin nodded, his jaw tightening as the gravity of her words settled over him like a mantle. He had faced dangers before raiders, mercenaries, the savage beasts of the wasteland, but none with the relentless cunning and brutal strength of those who hunted Shira and her cub. The Northern Raiders were a ruthless tribe of scavengers and warlords who thrived on chaos and bloodshed. Their reputation whispered across planets as merciless slavers and killers. To stand against them meant risking everything. Yet, Kaelin felt a stubborn flame ignite within him, a determination to protect these fragile lives, to fight not just for survival, but for something worth living for. As dawn's first light began to creep over the horizon, painting the sky with hues of crimson and gold, Kaelin and Shira moved to a hidden encampment nestled within the twisted roots of the bioluminescent forest. The jungle was alive with eerie whispers and flickering shadows, a realm where light and darkness wove an eternal dance, concealing wonders and terrors alike. Here, Shira's people once thrived, a proud, noble clan of hunters and warriors bound by ancient rites and fierce loyalty to their home. But now, the camp was silent, abandoned save for the echoes of memories and the slow decay of time. It was a graveyard of dreams, a testament to the cost of war and betrayal. Shira's eyes lingered on the ruins, her expression a complex blend of sorrow and resolve. "This was once my home," she murmured, voice thick with emotion. "Now it is a tomb, but we will reclaim it. For my cub, for our people, for the future." She turned to Kaelin, the fire of determination burning bright. "You will stand with me?" Kaelin met her gaze steadily, the weight of his decision settling like stone in his chest. "I will," he said simply, "because this fight isn't just yours anymore. It's ours." The pact was sealed not with words, but with shared purpose and the unspoken understanding that in this vast, indifferent universe, survival demanded more than strength. It demanded trust, sacrifice, and the courage to face the unknown together. As the twin moons set and the new day dawned, Kaelin and Shira prepared to face the storm that loomed on the horizon, a tempest of violence and destiny that would test the limits of their bond and shape the fate of all who called Viridia 9 home. Chapter 3: Shadows of the Hunt. The sun had long vanished behind the jagged cliffs of Viridia 9, surrendering the world to the cold embrace of night. The twin moons, now high and full, cast a ghostly silver glow that filtered through the dense canopy of the twilight jungles and otherworldly forest, alive with flickering bioluminescence and whispers of unseen creatures. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and alien blooms that pulsed faintly in the darkness, their colors shifting like living jewels in a sea of shadow. Somewhere in the distance, the low growl of a predator echoed, a chilling reminder that this land belonged to the hunters, not the hunted. Kaelin moved cautiously beside Shira, his senses heightened by the alien forest's eerie symphony. The Tigress mother's lithe figure cut through the underbrush like a shadow made flesh, every step silent and purposeful. Her glowing stripes glimmered faintly beneath the moonlight, a mesmerizing display of primal power and grace. Yet, despite her commanding presence, there was an undercurrent of tension in her movements, a vigilance born from days spent evading death and nights haunted by memories of loss. The weight of leadership pressed upon her shoulders, yet she bore it with an unyielding resolve that drew Kaelin deeper into her world. As they pressed forward, the cub nestled safely against Shira's side, its bright eyes wide with wonder and wariness. It was a fragile spark of life amid the darkness, a symbol of hope and renewal. Kaelin found himself protective not just of the cub, but of its fierce mother as well, their fates now entwined like threads in a tapestry woven by destiny. Together, they navigated the tangled labyrinth of vines and towering trees, the jungle's ancient roots twisting beneath their feet like the veins of the planet itself. Suddenly, the stillness shattered, a sharp crack of breaking wood followed by a rustle of disturbed leaves. Shira's body tensed instantly, muscles coiling like springs as her eyes flashed emerald fire. Kalen's hand instinctively went to the blaster at his hip, fingers brushing the cool metal as adrenaline surged through his veins. From the shadows, a group of figures emerged, their forms cloaked in ragged armor etched with the brutal insignia of the Northern Raiders. Their faces were obscured by helmets adorned with jagged horns and crimson war paint, eyes gleaming with cruel anticipation. They were the hunters who had pursued Shira and her cub relentlessly, drawn by the promise of glory and savage conquest. The leader, a towering brute with scars crisscrossing his weathered face, stepped forward, voice a guttural growl that echoed through the jungle. "There's no mercy for those who hide in the shadows, Tigress. Hand over the cub, and perhaps we'll let you live." His words dripped with menace, a challenge carved from the raw hunger for power and domination. Shira's response was a low, feral snarl, her posture shifting into a deadly stance that radiated fierce defiance. "You will find no prey here, only death," she warned, claws flexing as the bioluminescent patterns on her skin flared with an otherworldly light. "Leave now, or face the wrath of the Twilight Jungle's last queen." Kalen's breath caught, heart pounding as the tension coiled tighter, a storm ready to break. The raiders advanced with ruthless determination, weapons raised, and a howl of rage ripping through the night. But Kalen and Shira stood united, man and Tigress, bound by a pact forged in survival and trust. As the first clash erupted beneath the spectral glow of the twin moons, the jungle itself seemed to hold its breath, bearing witness to a battle that would echo through the ages, a testament to courage, sacrifice, and the unbreakable bonds between alien and human. Chapter 4. The Reckoning Under Starfire. The night sky above Viridia 9 was a blazing canvas of stars, the twin moons now cloaked by swirling nebulae of shimmering cosmic dust, casting an ethereal glow that danced like firelight on the jagged edges of the alien jungle. The air was thick with the scent of rain and ozone, heralding a coming storm that stirred the ancient trees and stirred the primal instincts that pulsed through every living thing in the wild. Somewhere beyond the canopy, distant thunder rumbled low and deep, a promise of destruction, or perhaps cleansing. Beneath this celestial tempest, Kalen and Shira faced the culmination of their journey, a reckoning that would decide not only their fate, but that of a world teetering on the edge of oblivion. In the heart of the Twilight Jungles, their sanctuary had become a battleground. The Northern Raiders, relentless and savage, had brought fire and fury to the ancient roots, shattering the fragile peace that Kalen and Shira had fought to forge. The ground was scorched, and the air thick with smoke that curled like serpents around the towering trees. Yet, amid the chaos and ruin, a fierce light burned bright in the eyes of the Tigress Queen. Her stripes glowed fiercely, bioluminescent veins pulsing in rhythm with her raging heart. She moved with the grace of a predator, each step measured and deadly, her claws singing silent songs of vengeance and protection. Kalen, by her side, was a pillar of calm in the maelstrom. His hands gripped a weapon jury-rigged from salvaged tech and old designs, an extension of his will to survive and to defend. The scars of past battles marred his skin, but none matched the fire burning within him now, a fire kindled by the fragile life of the cub he had saved, the fierce love of the tigress who had claimed him as ally and protector. He was no longer a solitary scavenger, but a guardian, a warrior bound by honor to a cause greater than himself. The raiders came in waves, monstrous figures garbed in twisted armor, their war cries ripping through the jungle like wild storms. They wielded weapons of brutal simplicity and devastating power, jagged blades that glowed with stolen energy and crude firearms that spat death in searing bursts. Each clash echoed like thunder, the jungle trembling beneath the fury of the fight. Yet, despite their numbers and ferocity, Kalen and Shira moved as one, an inseparable force of nature that turned the tide with precision, strength, and unyielding resolve. Amid the fray, the cub, now stronger and fiercer, scampered between the legs of its mother and the human, its shimmering fur catching the moonlight in flashes of sapphire and gold. It was a symbol of hope, innocence amidst carnage, the fragile future for which they all fought. Shira's voice rang out, a fierce command that cut through the chaos. rallying their allies and striking fear into the hearts of their enemies. Her eyes met Kalen's for a brief moment, a silent vow that they would endure, no matter the cost. Hours bled into the night, the battle a relentless storm of sweat, blood, and fire. When dawn finally cracked across the sky, painting it with streaks of crimson and amber, the raiders lay broken and scattered, their cries of defeat swallowed by the rising sun. Exhausted but victorious, Kalen and Shira stood amidst the wreckage, the jungle slowly reclaiming its dominion as the first birdsong pierced the heavy silence. In the quiet aftermath, as the cub nuzzled between them, Kalen realized the truth of what had transpired, not just a battle won, but the forging of a new family, a new legacy born from trust and sacrifice. The wasteland had tested them, but it had also brought them together in a bond unbreakable, a promise whispered beneath starfire that the future, though uncertain, would be theirs to shape. Would you like me to continue the full 18,000 plus characters of Chapter 4 with more detailed battle sequences, emotional depth, and world building? I can extend the story in installments for you. Absolutely. Here's a continuation and completion of Chapter 4 with detailed, immersive storytelling in big, long paragraphs to bring the story to a satisfying and rich conclusion. Chapter 4, The Reckoning Under Starfire, continued. The dawn's early light crept slowly through the dense canopy of the twilight jungles, casting long, golden fingers that illuminated the scars of the night's brutal conflict. The air, thick with the lingering scent of smoke and the coppery tang of blood, was heavy but still, as if the jungle itself was taking a breath after the storm of violence. Kalen stood amid the shattered remnants of the raiders' once mighty assault, his body aching and clothes torn, but his spirit ablaze with a fierce satisfaction. At his side, Shira the Tigress queen loomed proud and magnificent, her glowing stripes dimming as the adrenaline faded, replaced by the quiet strength of survival. The cub, no longer trembling or frail, darted between their legs, its bright eyes shining with newfound vitality and a fierce spark inherited from its mother. The battle had been merciless, a test of endurance and willpower that pushed Kalen and Shira to the brink. Yet through every clash of blades and every burst of fire, their unity had held fast. The synergy between human ingenuity and alien prowess had become a formidable force, a testament to the power of trust forged in the crucible of danger. Kalen had fought not just for survival, but for something profoundly more, the hope of a future where fear no longer dictated the fate of the weak. As the morning sun filtered through the mist and the towering trees, a hush fell over the jungle, broken only by the gentle rustle of leaves and the distant calls of awakening wildlife. Shira lowered herself to the ground beside the cub, her emerald eyes softening as she nuzzled the creature's iridescent fur. "You have given us a chance," she murmured to Kalen, her voice a blend of gratitude and quiet awe. "Not just for my cub, but for all who call this place home." Her gaze locked with his, fierce and unyielding. "Together, we have rewritten the story of survival on Viridia 9. Kalen smiled, exhaustion forgotten in the warmth of this rare moment of peace. "We did this together," he replied, "and we'll face whatever comes next side by side." The weight of those words settled between them, a silent vow to guard the fragile sanctuary they had reclaimed and nurture the fragile flame of hope kindled in the heart of the wasteland. As days turned into weeks, the once ravaged jungle began to heal, the wounds of war slowly mending under the tender care of nature and the watchful eyes of its new protectors. Kalen adapted to the rhythms of this alien world, learning its secrets and mysteries from Shira, while teaching her the resilience of human spirit and ingenuity. The bond between them deepened beyond alliance, a connection of souls tempered by trials and trust, a partnership forged not just in battle, but in the quiet moments beneath star-strewn skies. The cub grew swiftly, its strength and spirit a living testament to the legacy of its parents. Together, the trio forged a new future on Viridia 9, one where the savage wilderness was not just a realm of fear, but a realm of possibility, where survival gave way to flourishing, and where the bonds between alien and human transcended the boundaries of species and fate. In the end, the wasteland had not claimed another victim, it had birthed a legend. The story of a man who fed a starving alien cub, who faced down relentless hunters with a tigress queen by his side, and who, through courage and compassion, forged a family that would change the destiny of a world. Under the twin moons and endless stars, Kalen, Shira, and their cubs stood united, a beacon of hope and strength, proof that even in the harshest places, life and love could endure, and that sometimes, the greatest power lay in the simplest acts of kindness.